you want a plan when not having a plan makes people think you're a crazy wild card and nobody can stop you, Johnny Million. Um, uh,
Reading chess, baby.
yes, 5D chess, 5G chess, which of course will give you cancer and allow them to turn you into a zombie, according to the Epic Times, I guess. So the state of where we are is, of course, a state of confusion. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks Radio Program, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks. Great way to support the show. Also, comment below if you have any idea or no idea what Trump's idea of what his concept of a plan might be to either continue to I guess, bully Iran into compliance through the threat of nuclear annihilation, because that's exactly what happened yesterday. Or the talks are going great. They're going great, Johnny Million. They're going great. What?
I feel like
What?
it's all just. Didn't he say that to somebody that like the world's a casino, and that
And he's trying to bankrupt it.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, he's just like, well, if I say this, do the things that my shell companies invest in make a profit?
Right. I just don't know if there's if a guy who bankrupt a casino, and which is seemingly nearly impossible to do unless you're the heads of the yeah, unless I guess there would be one option that maybe where I could see that happening, where the original owners end up buried in a cornfield in their underwear after being hit with a shovel and shot a bunch of times. Like, I can see how the business might suffer in that circumstance. If the beginning of your casino's like heyday is the end of the actual movie casino,
Oh, yeah.
right. So in all honesty, the weirdest part of my week on the live stream this week, and I've been waiting for this, so I shouldn't be surprised by it. But the oddest thing is watching MAGA TV, whether it's from the far reaches of the interwebs version of it, the low hanging fruit of it, like people on the blaze that are below the rank of Stu, who's was second on Glenn Beck's show before he got demoted to having to talk to Megyn Kelly once a month or whatever his job is now. And the other folks, like Pat Gray, who they put in the basement, or they created a faux basement so he can't even pretend to be in a real studio. Those guys all the way to the Republican members of the five, which are the 4.5 or what have you. Thank you. Hal Vickery says, Trump, a plan other than to enrich himself, his family, and maybe his cronies? Ridiculous assumption. Yep. I concur, but they're even terrible at that. We'll get to that in a minute as well. But, Trump is so, imbecilic that he can't even do selfish right now. Like, everything is so ham-handed, and he apparently seems to think he is so unshackled by reality that he's running headlong into situations where he himself, because he's president, might be able, in his mind, to dodge some kind of, I don't know, comeuppance after he leaves office, if he leaves office, because, again, this is not about assassination. This is about health. This is a person who is in horrible shape. I was showing Johnny Million that picture I showed to Doc Adam on my stream yesterday of Trump's hands, both of them slathered in makeup, one of them with a scaly, like, crusty patch on it that they can't even hide it anymore.
He could just do us a favor, dude.
Yeah, but
Stop it.
Here's the thing. He's not even going to see the benefits he's going to leave behind for his family, that they will collapse, because there is no situation where the hotels and buildings that Donald Trump has right now, where that name survives his presidency. Because the irony is, maggots can't afford to stay in any of them. They can. Your average run-of-the-mill maggot, who's out there buying all the merch and, leveraging their house to buy his gold shoes and his Trump coin and all that kind of stuff, losing their shirt, by the way. I think even Marjorie Taylor Greene lost about $70,000 on Trump coin in the first. You remember when he first got reelected,
Oh,
and there was
yeah.
this big push. And she invested in Trump Media and Technological Group, the TMTG, which runs and owns Truth Social, which of course again is is the same business model that Joker had in The Dark Knight with his pile of money. um, but there is no situation where those maggots, the run-of-the-mill maggots, move into Trump Tower in Chicago or
No.
anywhere else. I mean, there's the greatest hope they have is just move into FinSec. World Liberty Financial doesn't have Trump's name on it and operate behind the scenes. If you'll notice, their biggest scams don't have Trump's name on them anymore.
Mm.
Everything, including him trying to put his face on passports, him trying to put himself, make it the Trump Kennedy Center, that's all going to go away as soon as, he
That
leaves
passport
office
one
September
really
4th.
made me mad. I
Oh,
didn't like that at all.
so gross. Um, but all of that is immaterial. All that's going to go away as soon as he's in office. But even the family knows that putting his name on something that you want to outlast these next 2 years and change is a fool's errand. It's a mistake. It will ruin whatever that business model is. If you called it Trump FinSec, if you called it, Trump World Liberty Financial or Trump Liberty Financial, it's dead in the water. I would argue now. Like, I don't know anybody
Yeah.
who would actually buy into it with his name attached to it, but it works as a bribery scheme while he's in office. That's what it is. That's effectively what the whole purpose is to
Yeah,
legalize all
just
the
to get
money.
his attention, to get him to pay
Right.
attention to it. Yeah.
Well, and also to create a legal structure under which he could accept bribes like he did through Deutsche Bank from Russia the first time around. But he's got an architecture in place that, he can, I'm not touching that at all. But the understanding is he's definitely getting a phone call from somebody going, yep, the money's
Oh,
in the
yeah.
account. So, but the weirdest, I mean, a lot of them will wake up to that when the time comes. They can't wait to move on, but they don't have the guts or the courage in any way to do it now because he's got too much power over them, and he can direct his viewers and his followers to give death threats to them. So there's enough fear going on in maggot TV land and the general maggotry in the House and the Senate to put the fear of Trump in a significant number. Not everybody anymore, but 8 to 10, 15, 20 in the in the Senate, and maybe 80 in the House, right? That's enough. You can scare the maggots in those districts into threatening their own representatives, cajole them into doing this. So
Right.
he is definitely leveraging as much power as he has as the president of the United States right now because he knows it's going to be over. And a big portion of this is this odd back and forth about his own mortality, his own awareness.
He brings it up more than he used to.
Oh, he sure does. And
This I like.
Yeah, I don't know how you can't when every time you reach for your fish delight or your French fries or your Diet Coke off your desk or to push the Diet Coke button and you see this crusty, mangled mess on the back
Yeah, the
of your
weird
hand.
oozing sores on the tops of your hands.
Yeah, the weird rash he had on the back of his neck probably didn't bother him at all. He would just itch at it, and that was that. But he didn't really get a look at it. Nobody handed him a series of hand mirrors so he could look at it, which was gnarly.
A series of hand mirrors.
But your hands, anybody who plays VR or has watched a POV movie in any scene, whatever, your hands are always in your field of view when you're doing anything. And it is a constant reminder that he is not well. And that panic and anger is leading him to make some choices that he seems to think is, like there's a giant clock ticking over his head and he knows it. And his behavior is somewhere between legacy and revenge. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, and also iHeartRadio. We're on the app as well, I think. Yeah, yet another reason not to swear. We'll be back. Don't do it, Johnny. Don't.
friggin' frigga-froo.
Frag,
at the end of your life?
Yes. So you're going to hear a little bit of radio in the background, everybody, because it's
Gotta
a
keep an ear on
Chicago
it.
feed. Yeah, but so we can hear what's going on there. Hal Vickery says the dementia will cause him to forget he's dying if it progresses far enough. I don't think so. I think there's a hyperfixation that goes with it. It'll the only thing he'll forget is his reasons for even pretending to be an adult.
Yeah, those are fading quickly.
Whoa. Yeah, there is. It's so sad. I have a new sound bite that I put somewhere. I have to find it. It's in here. It's in here. Yes.
He has an overbite that makes him look like a
I can't play it during the
slightly crooked eye and
the show because it'll it's naughty.
He can look a little like a garden gnome.
Oh, yeah.
He'll wear a bow tie just because.
Yep.
Sure, you might call him a little quirky, but that's exactly what makes him so perfect. Tuna is a 3-year-old Chihuahua Dachshund mix with more than 700,000 followers on
I'll
Instagram.
just sew it.
And it all started because
I'll
he
tell you
was
to
adopted.
understand.
You can't buy a best friend like Tuna, but you can adopt one. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
Teachers are dynamic
Okay,
leaders
there. We're good.
shaping a new generation. They bring a variety of perspectives.
60 seconds if you hear me.
Thank you.
Innovating how they teach to prepare students for our fast-changing world. Achieving this takes skill and expertise. They're tireless explorers, creatively
Yeah, here it is.
discovering a universe.
It's
telling stories,
I can't. I'll put it in.
experimenting,
Got it in a hurry. Got to do it in a hurry
mentoring,
because if it
connecting
lays in the air,
cultures,
I'm in big
and
trouble.
connecting with each other. Leading by example. Experience the unique joy of helping students thrive. Teaching is a journey that shapes lives.
And
He's going to take the fucking thing away from you. He's going to kill you with it, and then he's going to have sex with your face.
there you go. That's the.
A campaign supported by the U.S. Department of Education, teach.org, and
That's one of my favorite quotes from Mindhunter.
PT.
Thank you.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right, so the obviously the big quote from Trump in the last 48 hours or ish is this whole thing about I won't even have to tell you when there's the ceasefire is over because there'll just be a big glow coming from the Middle East from Iran. It is probably, well, I wouldn't even say probably.
Is it like how COVID would go away when the sun came out?
Yeah, that's right. Except and by the way, all of it is.
Or the Strait of Hormuz will open naturally.
Yes, right.
It'll open naturally.
Right, exactly. If you just rub it in the right way. Yeah. Here's
After these strikes, is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Yeah, it is. It's they trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
Yes, could you give us an
Also, don't get me started on
Who
what
told
agreement.
him the word trifled before that interview?
Yes. Somebody it was trying to downplay it so he wouldn't overreact. So I'm guessing it was either Stephen Miller trying to appear macho because that's the kind of word he would use to try and appear macho, or Susie Wiles for the same reason. I think that's exactly what they did. So
it's like
the other
like excursion or asylum.
Yes, right. Yeah, those he overlaps. I can't help but think about the British Office. Remember did you ever see the British version of The Office where he keeps hiding Gareth's stapler in Jell-O and because he doesn't trust the way it moves because Gareth doesn't trust, and he goes, all right, who did this? And they cut to the guy who did it, and he's biting into a Jell-O packet. He's like, it's just a trifling matter, right? That's Yeah. That's what I keep thinking of because it's just that absurd. And again, I'm trying to figure out, I think, how I've been calling it the poo polishing awards in their own way this week because that is the singular job of the Trump media right now is how do you polish this turd to a high shine? It's a lot of work. The like just the cost of the fact that Trump said this week that the price of gas is coming down. You brought it up earlier, that he said the price is coming down quickly and it's already happening, which it absolutely isn't. Nope. Nor should anyone expect it to, even if there really was a deal that was signed right away. Like the drawdown between whoever's in charge of the IRGC troops that are on the coast of Iran and our blockade people, like when do you think, let's just say they sign a deal, you think everybody just packs their stuff and goes home that hour? You think our ships just leave and assume the Iranians are going to act their way? Or do you think the Iranians are going to assume that we mean something with this deal when Trump tore up the last one? This is the hardest part of this whole deal process and the illusion of there being a deal ever possible is that Trump is the guy that tore up the one that was really hard to get.
A good one.
Right. So why would they trust him to sign one now? And especially one that says, get rid of all your long-range missiles, any of your ballistic missiles, anything that could fire back against American ships in the area while they fire at your country. And when does that happen? All nuclear stuff aside, which again was supposedly obliterated last year. I haven't found a single maggot in the news or online anywhere who will bring that up. Who will, Stagma says that trifle sounds like a Besant word. You know what? I wouldn't rule that out either. And considering that they allege that this whole thing has moved into an economic war. Fox Business was talking about this yesterday. That really, this is not a hot war anymore. This is an economic war, and therefore, we've entered the Cold War phase of this. While we're breaking the ceasefire to fire each other, like as confused as we are as to how anybody could be confused, because that's really the root of my confusion, Johnny Million. I'm confused about how anybody else. Now, I'm confused.
How can you be confused?
I'm confused about how anybody can be confused about what Trump is doing. There is no plan here. This is, it is a series of backseat drivers trying not to upset the king that he has no clothes. And It's a propaganda war between two belligerent sides that are emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually and psychosexually immovable, and therefore, and don't care. Like, again, one of the worst parts of this is that clearly the Iranian government and the IRGC do not care about the safety of their own people. And neither does Trump. Neither of them care. Like, if he's looking at blowback, if we have an Osama bin Laden that's born out of this situation, it's going to happen years from now after I'm gone and already rich and retired on my golf course in Qatar or whatever.
Cool.
But they clearly do not care. And the idea that somehow, because the markets are responding as if Trump is telling the truth in any of these situations, that they're ping-ponging back and forth between, highs and lows because it's on, it's off, the end of Chinatown. My sister, my daughter, my sister, my sister. There's a truce, a ceasefire, a war, a ceasefire. There's a war and a ceasefire. Like, that's where we are right now. And my only confusion is about how anybody can see that this entire thing is a farce, and both sides of the leadership of on either side of this conflict cannot or will not bring it to an end, because they'll either look like they're cowards or they'll end up killed.
Yeah.
And neither of them, that's an untenable situation for both sides. It is admission you are not in control of the circumstance. And neither Trump nor the IRGC leadership can admit this in this circumstance, because it would lead to, a maggot uprising, which there's already a boiling one going on anyways, that kind of ebbs and flows, like a tide of we're mad at him. Okay, we're kind of not mad, but we're really mad, but we're not quite. And we're about to, Trump in his, always impressive timing is teeing himself up for a seventh wave right before the midterms. Hence the redistricting, hence them trying to fix seats. The irony being is that the redistricting of these places is not going to necessarily give them those seats. It didn't, divide up a blue section into, 3 solidly red areas. It watered down the red in all of those areas at a time when a bunch of maggots are taking their ball and going home because they were lied to, because they are either, and if they've got any sense of honor or dignity left, they can admit they were lied to and go, Trump isn't who I thought he was. And I have a big question that when you see people like Tucker Carlson and these others kind of coming around to Trump's flim flam, where they're admitting, to themselves that he's not
coming around, like going like, he said this all along when he didn't mean it.
Right. Well, at this point, they're not even, it took them a while to get to, he was lying before and I was sucker. I fell for it. Like, they're barely at that place right now. They're still by and large in the Bibi Netanyahu is a hypnotist and Donald Trump doesn't want to do this, but they dangled something shiny in front of him, or they're bribing him or extorting him with Epstein stuff. And which again, should set off alarm bells all over the place. If your guy can be extorted by what's in the Epstein files, maybe, just maybe, he's a terrible person. Maybe you should have never bought that. Maybe you should go, oh my God, those 3 million files that are still missing are all Trump and all the most incriminating, awful stuff in the files entirely. And there's that much of it, terabytes of that stuff. That should be, that should set off alarm bells in and of itself. But I have a question about, and whether the chat can answer this for me over the break, or think about this. How long before they go, if he lied about this, if he lied about no new wars and that prices were going to come down and that he was going to he was going to cut the budget and all this kind of stuff and save us from the debt and all that and stuff, and that was all obviously a lie. How long before they go, maybe he was lying about Democrats and the media as well?
Huh?
We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks Radio program, MAGA Worldwide.
All right, I'm taking my wireless microphone to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good. Let's see. I'll get there. There you go. Go, Johnny, go. Finally, at least he finished. You know what I mean? Or like, oh dear! Oh no! Oh no! Oh, Johnny, turn! It's not a good idea. Johnny, are you okay? Johnny, are you okay? Johnny, are you okay? Are you okay? Johnny, are you okay? Johnny, are you okay? This is like, all right, he's fine. He'll be fine. There you go. All right, he'll be back after this. And by the way, both Chicago figured out how to mute themselves on their end of things, which is lovely. So they can unmute themselves when we're coming back on their own now. That's great. I
keep my wireless headphones in so I can hear all of that. That's amazing. That's just a cornucopia of sounds.
Yeah. I've set it up for that whole thing just in case, in general. There you go. So You got to keep. We got to keep mood up somehow in this craziness.
Yeah, I'm all right with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, not surprising. I'm just checking on one thing.
Right on.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Right. Like it's this. Yeah. I at this point, like, I don't know how. I've seen so many maggot like news people just juggling this, like, uh, like just forming a thought for them on how to defend this. Just twisting themselves in knots, knowing full well there is absolutely no real answer. This is I'll give you an example. Like, remember the guy? I don't know if you remember Owen Schroyer.
I know that name.
He was on Alex Jones, and then they had a falling out because Owen Schroyer wasn't sufficiently.
He's not that little person from the Austin Powers movies.
No, that's Vern Troyer. That's yeah.
All right, maybe that's right. Honestly, maybe that's
lies your uncle saw on Facebook. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Let me tell you something, Johnny Million. Is there a point? Yeah, chat room where the maggots go who are waking up to the fact that Donald Trump was lying the whole time. Because again, the big question around Iran is, if this is something that for 47 years other presidents didn't have the guts to do, and he's finally handling it, why didn't he run on that? If that's the story he wants to tell right now, he was president before. It's not like this is his first time being president and you didn't know. He was president before. So he had this awareness. And so I guess in those 47 years, there's a regret that he had about not doing this during his first term when he tore up the deal. And had he gotten his second term right away, in the first year or so of his next term, he was going to attack Iran. That was clearly the plan. Pretend after you tore up the deal that you were making some sort of negotiations, and then use the premise that you were giving them real options when you absolutely weren't, as a way of saying you have every right to attack the country from the air and from the sea. All right, so let's just operate on. I'm not talking about all of them because there's clearly a diluted, group of them that will never break free. They're the Kool-Aid drinkers for real. They're the people who would be at Jonestown and the Pineapple Farm, shooting at senators who are trying to flee, that kind of stuff. I'm talking about I'm talking about the ones that supposedly are coming to their senses about him as a person, lying to them. Now, again, some of them are stuck in this whole, he doesn't want to do this, but they're making him do it, which again, there's only two ways you can make someone do something they don't want to do: carrot or stick, right? Or a combination of the two. And if the carrot's enough, he's a greedy psychopath who will take the entire country to war just to feather his own nest after he leaves, right? That's maggots. That's option number one. Option number two is the stick is so scary that he will take the United States to war with Iran even though he doesn't want to, because the stick involves something that will affect him personally so much that which I will give you the entire spectrum of it. Either he's being blackmailed with Epstein or financial stuff that is so egregious. Pictures of him with underage girls doing God knows what, all the way, live boy, dead girl, that kind of thing, or vice versa. Or that he's being extorted, that they're threatening his life. That use the Kennedy idea that that they're going to kill his family. In which case, somehow, he's letting that happen. He's the most powerful man in the world who says he can shoot anybody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and get away with it. He thinks the press is the enemy of the people, but he's saying that not because he truly believes it, but because Israel or Russia or China is threatening to kill him / his family, and he's keeping a lid on that and just answering a scary phone call in the middle of the night. And so, by the idea that he's a courageous hero who will stand up to these forces, that goes out the window, right? Because he's obviously, moved by it. So both of those situations, that's the extremes of the scenario. The reality, I'm sorry to say, maggots, is a lot closer to he just wants to. He's not being blackmailed. He's not being threatened. He got mad that they didn't give him the Nobel Peace Prize, so he wants to be the king of war. That's it. He wants to be known as. He's been weak his whole life. He's been weak, flabby, no chin, a little mushroom guy to all the women he's interacted with his entire life. And if he can't buy their affection, he gets mad at them and calls them, pejoratives, because they're a constant reminder that the only reason anybody's with him is for his money, because it can't be for his personality, his charm, his intelligence, his genetics. It's because they want what's left of his dad's money or whatever he's been able to, fabricate through flim flam while he's been president. So he's, like his rotten hands in his field of view, his own reflection and self-hatred has turned him into effectively an angry warmonger, a man who, hate, like many before him, like Hitler, who was clearly not the German ideal, like Pol Pot or Mao Zedong, who are clearly not the Ryan Reynolds of their gene pool, looks wise, right? Those guys in particular had a hatred for the rest of the world based on the idea that they were shortchanged in the looks department, among other things, and they take it out on the rest of the world. And clearly, that's more than likely that's what it is. I'm sorry to TYT and all these other people who seem to agree with Tucker Carlson that somehow Trump really wants to do the right thing. It's just that Bibi Netanyahu whispered in his ear and he has to. Well, then why didn't Biden? Why didn't Obama? Why didn't they, why did the other 47, years of presidents not attack Iran like Trump said, if all it took was a whisper from a guy who's been in power for 16 years? Or the person before him who clearly had the same goal as well. It could just be, hang on to your shorts, it could just be that this is what Trump was planning all along. He was always lying to these people. They are going to have to wake up to the fact that he was always lying, that he was not going to make life better for them, that the tax cuts that he put in place really do help, the upper 1% more than anybody else. And he was going to reverse the tax burden by giving a tax cut with one hand and then putting a tariff in place, which forces the tax burden onto the consumer, to low-income people. Because that's where it goes. You have businesses pay the tariffs, pass it on to the consumer. It's the people shopping at Walmart and Target who pay the taxes that run the federal government. So it takes it, and then and then you eliminate the tax burden on the upper 1% or the upper 10%. That's the goal. And so that even the tax break he gives is eaten alive by the rise in gas prices, by the rise in consumer prices, by that 15% overlay on everything that comes from outside the country, including stuff that is, drop shipped here. So much stuff that people buy on Amazon is drop shipped. If you buy a plastic pitcher, it's made in China, even if it's an American company. So it ships to a warehouse. The American company slaps their label on it or stamps their name on it because they designed it. They just had it made over there. That's the wholesaler. Yep. They're the retailer. That's how their business works. And it has made the country rich. That's how a lot of people, if you don't believe me, go online and look at how many of the CrossFit Christian crowd have drop shipping businesses. The overlap between those people is incredible and indicative of a wave of money that was made, kind of like teenagers making apps in the App Store, that funded a rally in the American economy over the last at least 15 years. That drop shipping took off, that through Amazon, eBay, and Etsy, people would buy stuff or get something made in China, design it themselves, or find another product. And if you don't believe me, go on YouTube and just scroll for drop shipping, business. Just like make your own drop shipping business. And you will see that the very same people that you'll look at all these folks, and they look exactly like the folks at that you'd see at a MAGA rally. Same people. And it's not an accident. Well, he's wrecking their business model. And one of the reasons why you see him doing this thing, I'm putting the huge tariffs on everybody and then pulling them back, is because he's getting pushback from the maggot moneymakers in the middle class at their representatives. Like, hey, I get all, just like Ivanka Trump, I get all my plastic goods that I sell via drop shipping on Amazon, eBay, or Etsy. And that I run the whole business on top of my other business. That's my wife's side hustle. That's my side hustle, whatever. Those folks yelled at their senator and their House Republican, and they went up to the Hill and went, hey, can you carve out a little of this for me? Just because my constituents make a lot of money in selling this particular stuff. And then by the time you get there, it's so porous that the only people that don't have a carve out are companies that Trump doesn't like specifically. Like he almost directs it straight at, like, Walmart gets one, Target doesn't. And even, but let's look for a second before we take another break. I'm going to show this online, and Johnny Million can share this with the folkage. But this is
looks awesome.
Gas prices right now. And this is an Owen Schroyer, and by the way, whose name on Crapper is Owen Schroyer 1776.
He's a patriot, man.
Man, ain't patriot. You bet you sweet bupkis. All this to stop a nuke that didn't exist and open a strait that wasn't closed. That sounds a whole lot like the argument that MS Now and liberal CNN and ABC fake news and everybody have been talking about for a while. And this is a hardcore anti-lib. I don't even know if he'd call himself a conservative anymore because of this.
How could you really?
Right. But understand what this means. This is the confusion that's going on. This is a classic example of all this to stop a nuke that didn't exist and open a strait that wasn't closed.
That wasn't closed.
Zero air in that tweet. That's summed up. And a picture of gas at $6 and a picture of gas Supreme at $7.19 on the same day. This is 17 hours ago. This is yesterday. Same day that Donald Trump said gas is coming down super fast.
It came down today, he said.
Yes,
go look,
right.
Go look now.
Go look at it. Yeah. P.S. Don't. You'll be disappointed. Maggots, live in your blissful ignorance for one more day. But this is key. We've been wondering for a long time what would pull them back from the abyss of believing his nonsense. And it was always going to be a combination of things. And it was always going to have to be an extreme combination of things. 3 million hidden Epstein files, gas at $7, a war and a regime change war in the Middle East that he said he would do. Like, he managed to do all three. Think about that during the break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Not only did he lie about not starting new wars, but no new wars, no Middle Eastern wars, no wars no regime change wars. All three violated in one attack. Never mind that there's a ceasefire that hasn't ceased. We'll be back right after this.
Yeah, ceasefire just won't cease.
Joan
Yeah.
Esposito. Live.
Yeah. The irony that and specifically, maggots themselves are having an increasingly difficult time defending this because they know better, and they'll use, like, I think my favorite defense is that well, I mean, they'll use sort of a similar thing to, like, during Joe Biden, we have low unemployment. They'll say the president doesn't affect employment. The economy operates no matter what. He's not in charge of the stock market. The stock market's doing its own thing.
That's a handy double standard.
Democrats don't create jobs, and they don't do that. But as soon as Trump gets in, the stock market is all his. Every victory is his, and every job that's created is because of his policies. And without him, the sun wouldn't shine and the grass wouldn't grow.
The double market's standard up, gas prices are down, but they're not.
The double standard is increasingly pathetic.
Facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio. Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So we have seen, over this last little bit that there is a great example. I've seen a rise in my chat room over the last couple weeks in particular. One, because I now stream vertically on YouTube as well as horizontally, and apparently that's, it brings in two different crowds, which is really fascinating to watch. But also there's been a big shift in those folks showing up and kind of trying to defend Trump. I mean, again, a bunch of them are bots or paid for. And look, you got to make a buck. I'm not here to yuck anybody's yum. It's a hard, hustle out there. Yeah. And my chat room doesn't get upset, like other chat rooms do. So it's kind of an easy ride for them. And I get that. But there's also the reality that I think part of the reason why they've started showing up in my chat and Pacman's chat and other people's chat, Beasley's and those guys, is because what are they going to do? Go over to right-wing channels and cheer what's happening? It's not exactly like they can go to, the Newsmax chat room or to, Trump's own chat room that runs at on the White House feed or any of that kind of stuff, or on RSBN or RAV or, any of those folks. It's not like they can go over and go, this is going so well, #winning. Right? There's just no situation where that ends well for them. I mean, imagine going over to TPUSA's chat room right now and having to deal with just the number of fellow maggots who are listening to Candace Owens about Erica Kirk, or the ones that are listening to TPUSA about Candace Owens and that fight that's going on. Just that by itself. And again, there is no analog in the Democratic side. We definitely have, a variance because of the big tent party. You're going to have people that are too conservative or too liberal for people, and that's just the reality. That's what democracy is, people. And it's nothing to get angry about. It's just a reality of not everybody thinks like you, and you got to be able to talk to those people. That's it. That's if you're for democracy, you're for that argument. You don't even need to talk in pejoratives about people who disagree with you. You can just disagree, agreeably. But over there, I mean, they are at each other's throats over Charlie Kirk's death and Tyler Robinson. And it's not because Joe Biden's running things and James Comey's in charge of the FBI and Merrick Garland is running the DOJ, and that they're hiding that they took out Charlie Kirk, right? These are all Republicans, and not just Republicans, but Republican stars who ran on the idea, from Kash Patel to Bongholio when he was there, to Pam Bondi and Trump himself, that we're going to get in there and we're going to weed out the deep state. And there are all these people who they want you dead, like, which is a big thing they say every time somebody tries to, charge I don't know, like the guy at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, who, by the way, would have never gotten to Trump. And probably if he managed to harm anybody, it would have been a reporter who Trump had vilified. I don't think the Fox guys had to sit in the back, near the doors, right? You think they had pole position during that thing? You're right. So,
No.
But the analog, there just isn't one. And there'll be this talk about like infighting from AOC to Fetterman, this kind of like, like that fight is anywhere near the Alex Jones or Owen Schroyer, breakaway and then return against Trump, and Tucker Carlson now calling him the Antichrist, or alluding to him. I will say that Tucker Carlson is too much of a coward to just go ahead and say what he is saying and stand by it. That's why he's always just asking the question, which he is not doing. He is using a passive aggressive way in asking his question, which is allowing for the inference therein, which is it's like a push pull. And, famously push polls where they call up and go, if you found out that Hunter Biden was, was running a guillotine in the White House and was killing J6ers, they were never going to get out of jail, would that affect your vote for Democrats in the midterms? And then you go, absolutely. Okay, check. Because almost everybody would say that. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
So, but, that's effectively what Tucker Carlson does. Because he's a coward and because he's as much of a flim-flam artist as Trump is. And you could argue that their feud is more about who can BS the movement more in a direction that they want, right? This is, the bag of sand to the golden idol. Both are false deities in this circumstance. The golden idol and the bag of sand spiritually have the same worth. Right?
They're the idol.
Right. They're both false. They're both graven images of whatever. One's just more well-constructed, but they're both fake. That's what's happening with Tucker Carlson and Trump, between the two of them. But it has created a fight between maggots across the entire spectrum that is ongoing and will not go away. And as Tucker Carlson often says,
I like wood.
And
deeper and longer.
And maybe that's the one true thing he's said. But we'll never know, because it would require the rest of us to believe him when he says,
I like wood.
Which and that it just applies to his house.
Deeper and longer.
The point I'm trying to make is that the fight between the two of them, the fight between Candace Owens and Erica Kirk, the fight between the true fiscal conservatives that allegedly still exist. Chip Roy, when's the last time you heard from him? When's the last time that the leadership in the House allowed you to hear from Chip Roy? Is Chip Roy getting on Fox News anymore? Nope. Is Chip Roy getting on even Newsmax anymore? Nope. He's stuck on RAV, on Steve Bannon's network, right? He's been pushed, to the fringes, because his number one issue was, we're going to get in there, we're going to cut the budget. Doge is going to be the word of the entire term. This is good. This is the Doge era. Doge is going to come in, clean up everything, and we're going to get all these people who are just ticks who operate on the government. And Kash Patel's going to roll in there, and he's going to turn the FBI headquarters into a mausoleum for the deep state, right?
Okay.
A tombstone for the deep state would be the FBI building. It would just be like, this would be a place you would go, like a museum where, remember when we used to have this terrible thing? And I'm going to go in there and clean it up, and the FBI is going to be totally different than it was. And of course it isn't. The only thing different about it is that the leader is drunk most of the time, has missed work a bunch of times, which, by the way, I find a hard time being upset about, because the idea of him being on the job is worse than him being there and making decisions is worse than him missing the decision-making process.
Yeah, I kind of prefer him being a little MIA.
Exactly, right. So, but the idea that he was somehow going to fix this, let's just stick to the fundamentals, in that maggots across the board have to admit, whether they'll do it openly or verbally, in even in a safe space of other confused maggots, that he was lying about that he wanted the prestige of being the deputy, the head of the FBI, and Bongholio wanted the prestige of the deputy seat without having to do the job. and he just wants the jackets and the patches and the KMA card and the ability to use the plane and fly all over, and desperately desires to look macho in front of a bunch of dudes that have clearly earned, and women, by the way, who have clearly earned their stripes, who have clearly earned their place, when he has not. So as we, that's just a singular example. That's just one example of how he would, and how's Pam Bondi any different? Ran on, by the way, as the Florida AG, who could have torn up the non-prosecution agreement that Alex Acosta, who Trump also hired, who gave Epstein's co-conspirators this non-prosecution agreement, sight unseen, no matter who they are, no matter what they did, blanket immunity. Think about that for a second. Donald Trump gave him a job as labor secretary, and then he turned the woman who kept that agreement in place, turned her into the head of the DOJ. After, by the way, he couldn't get Matt Gaetz in there, who was attempting with his buddy Joel Greenberg. That they were going to be the new Epstein. They were going to run the same thing: fake IDs, underage girls, drugs, flying out of the country to the Cayman Islands and other places, to the Caribbean and out of state. He lost Matt Gaetz to people figuring out that Matt Gaetz was trying to be the next Epstein. So who did he replace her with? Like the very woman who should have torn up the non-prosecution agreement. Maggots, whether you believe the Iran war had to happen because of nukes and blah, 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 you got to admit that those things are hinky at best and an obvious criminal conspiracy at worst. And increasingly, it's just getting worse.
Yep.
The idea that the guy who wanted the Nobel Peace Prize changes the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War because it's not macho enough, and then is about to cut a deal with Iran that allows them to be on a trust me bro system with nukes and possibly charge a toll for boats going through the strait, which they were not doing before all this started.
Huh?
That's what so it's just a brand. So calling it the Department of War, that's just branding, so that you can capitulate on a level that Chamberlain, is probably dancing in his grave, that he's, somebody's going to take his medal as the biggest capitulator in human history. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More of the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, with Johnny Million and Philip Ittner joining us from Kyiv in Ukraine. Which, by the way, Trump said again this week that it's going to be over in a phone call, and it should be over, and it shouldn't have happened. It never would have happened if he'd have been in there. But a year and change has passed, and man, that's been a long phone call. I can do it as soon as I don't even have to, before I take office. I can handle this. Remember that lie, maggots? Remember that one? Woof. We'll be back. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then I think this will pop in.
Facts matter now more than ever. This is WCPT 820.
I'm going to shrink myself down. Enoch Chuck. All right, there we go. Get our guests in here. There you go. And then I got to do a... There we go. Move it over to here. I'll take this. Make it feels a little better. Phil, can you hear us okay?
Yep. Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent. And let me get a title up real quick because I didn't have one before. Because I had a bigger fish to fry. Because I literally tried to send Johnny Million a message in the chat, and it crashed the software.
It just freezes instantly. It's crazy.
Right. It was as soon as I hit enter, it was like kiddo, and like all the software it was like it crashed. Would you like to reopen it? I'm like, I'm not sure. That was fun. And that can't be something they're trying to, that they want.
Elevator.
Yeah, there we go.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. And then duplicate to vertical. There we go. Put this up. Whoops. I shrunk it down too much. We'll put this up here. And yeah, cool. All right. And good to see you, brother. You doing okay?
Yeah. Lost our editor. Poor guy.
Oh, right.
He's off to for military training, so
right.
we won't see him for. Yeah, we won't see. He was mobilized, so we won't see him for probably a couple of months.
Right.
Hopefully we've got a temporary replacement, but yeah, it sucks.
Yeah,
poor guy.
That does.
Hold on. We'll go here, and then I'll try and even this out some. There you go. So we're not all.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. But you guys deserve to be lifted up. Whoops. I'm trying to grab Johnny's frame, and there he is. That's excellent. So, yeah, move this. Johnny Million's giant name. It's an issue. There you go. And okay, it's fine. It's fine. I'll just leave it. It's fine.
It's fine.
We're fine. We're fine.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Which, by the way, is the name of Bill O'Reilly's new podcast with Rob Schneider.
Oh,
really
wow.
Yeah.
One of my best friends at CBS is very proud of the fact that he kicked O'Reilly out of covering the Falklands because he was lying about where he was.
Wow.
Oh my.
Yeah, and
that's
they were not in Buenos Aires, and of course they weren't on the Falklands. They were somewhere in the region, and O'Reilly claimed to be in Argentina, and also he was just being a pain in the ass, and in lying because he wanted to be on TV, because he was all about get me on the air.
Right.
And my friend called up New York and said, yeah, he's not wanted here.
Play
Put him on a plane.
WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Okay.
You're listening to the House Farce radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at housefarce.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-face little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Well, welcome to the show, Philip Ittner, live from Kyiv in Ukraine. Thank you for being with us today, brother. We're glad you're safe and secure. We understand that your editor on your show, On the Edge, who people should subscribe to through your YouTube channel, it has been conscripted and has to go off to fight or train at least. We'll see what he gets assigned to. Obviously, as an editor, he's got other skills. Hopefully, the worst he'll see is flying FPV drones, because I think he's probably got those kind of capabilities. That would be good. But either way, it's still a serious thing. And so how are you doing? And what was that experience like for you guys?
We were able to get about 80% of the editing done with like the graphics that we put on the weekly show. Before he had to leave, most of the most important things were put together, but there's a couple of rough edges that I'll do now, but we found a temporary replacement, so we should be good. But it's a shame to lose him for a while, but he will go, and I spoke to him the day before he left, and he wasn't thrilled about it, but his country called and he answered.
Yeah. And I mean, because it's interesting that it's ongoing. We've been, back and forth. The original kind of distraction from the reality that's ongoing in Ukraine was the, Israel Gaza situation. And again, ongoing farcical ceasefire there as well. Like I don't see.
Here.
Well, no, I mean, we'll get to that.
Yeah, ceasefire in Gaza or here, because there's
all three.
There's a farcical one here too.
Exactly. Yeah. Right now we have 3 fake ceasefires going on. Israel, firing into Gaza all during this alleged ceasefire that was predicated on this deal, this 20-point deal that Trump, slapped his name on like the Kennedy Center and then just punted so that, and then just doesn't enforce parts of it is really the big deal. And then, this Iran U.S. ceasefire, which we had hot fire between the U.S. and the Iranians, I guess surface to ship missiles that were being fired from Iran, us firing back at them, boats firing on our boats, all that kind of stuff going on, calling it a ceasefire. And then Trump announcing a 3-day ceasefire this weekend, obviously because, today is we beat the Nazis before we became them day in Russia right now. Right?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't Trump that announced it. I think he may have claimed some sort
That's what I'm saying.
Credit for it. But what it really was Putin said to Zelensky, this is the narrative that is out there now, and I'm streamlining some of it, but Putin said to Zelensky, it's the 81st anniversary of the end of the war, Victory Day over Nazi Germany. Both Ukraine and Russia, as part of the Soviet Union, were involved. Let's call a ceasefire for the 8th and the 9th. And then Zelensky said, well, you know what? If let's even go further. Let's do like the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. And the Russians apparently said, yeah, sure, and then immediately shot at the Ukrainians. And so the Ukrainians were like, okay, you broke we counter offered with a longer ceasefire. You broke that ceasefire. That means that all bets are off, and we can maybe fire on you during Victory Day parade celebrations in Moscow on the 9th, today. And basically, Putin said, if you do that, then we're going to, we're going to flatten Kiev. We're going to do something equivalent to, it'll be the power of a nuclear strike sort of thing. A lot of bluster. He warned foreigners to get out of the city. So the Ukrainians didn't fire at the parade today. The parade has already happened in Moscow. Right. But we'll see. We'll see if the second we go into the 10th, 12:01 on the 10th, whether or not we'll get some sort of strike. It wouldn't surprise me terribly. The parade itself was, I think, it was a disaster for Vladimir Putin. It was absolute, utter disaster because they decided not to have any of the kind of heavy machinery for a variety of reasons. Some of them saying, it's because they're using them up the front, or they didn't want to, they didn't want to entice the Ukrainians to fire on them, or I don't know. They give a lot of excuses as to why they're not doing the armor this year.
Right.
But it was so distinctly different than any Victory Day parade that I've ever seen since Putin came to power. And you got to understand that May 9th, Victory Day, is not. It's one of the two biggest days on the Russian calendar. Is New Year's, which is when they kind of appropriated all the Christmas celebrations for a secular Soviet Union and put it on New Year's, and then Victory Day, because the defeating the Nazis in World War II is in Russian eyes isn't just history. It's religion. It's mythology. It's everybody had everybody had a grandpa who took out an entire trench line with grenades strapped to him, or a great grandmother who kind of kept a crust of bread going during the siege.
It lasted
for 2 weeks.
It lasted 9 days, like the light from the menorah, right?
So
make up their own fake Christmas stories, right?
It is this enormous day on the Russian calendar, and it was. I watched it. I watched segments of it. I didn't watch the entire thing, but I read the entire rundown of what happened, and I did watch part of it. It was one of the most pathetic things I've ever seen. And
Right.
there will be repercussions. There's going to be ripple effects because it was so strikingly
Lame.
different than any other Victory Day parade that's ever happened, even to the point of, and I saw a Russian commentator who I know who was watching it live streaming, and he pointed out, and he was right. I lived in Moscow. I saw at least 4 of these things. The pacing was all wrong, because when you have these massive armored columns going across Red Square, they're so loud and so distracting. The music is in the background.
Right.
It takes those armored things take center stage. But because it was only parade soldiers and kind of like dignitaries in limousines, the pacing was all wrong. So they had to do. There's a very patriotic World War II song that they do every year during the parade, and this time they had to cut stanzas out and repeat them before the bridge, because they had to extend the song because there wasn't the rumbling sound of tanks going by at certain sections. So Russian people who watch this live would know this. They would notice this. It would be like doing, some ubiquitous song that we all know, like Let It Be or something, and just repeating a few stanzas for, the fun of it. Sort of that. People would be like, that's not normally how the song goes. And Russians will notice that. Russians are going to notice that. And then the other thing that was striking to me was that Putin's speech was 10 minutes long. And Putin on Victory Day, I have never seen Putin do to my knowledge, to my recollection, he's never done less than a half an hour. It's this platform that he uses to just pontificate on everything and just yammer on. And he got up there, spoke for 10 minutes, sat back down. And the attendees, which are oftentimes, kind of like the foreign minister of, whatever, even like allied nations. So like the British foreign secretary would go there to stand in solidarity as a member of the Allied powers. It was an absolute joke who he had on the dais with him. He had the head of Belarus and a couple of African, little teeny African countries that are client states for Moscow, but nobody of any consequence showed up, and it was just. The entire thing was
he had
utterly embarrassing.
He also had the Kazakhstan leader, and there's this hilarious womp womp picture. I'll show it to you in 1 second on the live stream. But there is it's clear that they're all kind of disappointed. They look like Paris Hilton, with an invite to a party that nobody showed up for. Like, what the, I'm wasting my cue coming here. This would be, there's the leader of Kazakhstan right there. And he's just like, holding his flowers all there. And like, Putin looks disappointed. Lukashenko's very aware. Everybody, the rest of the line is all trying to look somber because I think this is them holding it for the veterans that were wounded or whatever. But
this is them outside the Eternal Flame, which lies just outside the Kremlin, which is an old Soviet red star with a flame in the middle of it, and 2 honor guards there. And this is part of the Victory Day. They do it every year.
Yeah.
But normally you have a lot more people. And you're right. I mean, this is just pathetic.
And they could tell. There should be like 3 lines of people behind them. And there's 1 line of people. And this is, is kind of indicative, I would say, of a greater circumstance where, Trump finds himself with this kind of Iran war. Like, he was expecting everybody to rally behind him. And even the attempts to do it, the people that are being forced to do it, that are media aligned with him and stuff, all of them just obviously hate it. They're all miserable. They all know it's a farce, and they're like, they know that they've given the job of the high court's turd polisher, and they're just stuck doing it, and they all look like it. The same thing is happening to Putin and everybody around him. Like the head of Kazakhstan and Lukashenko are both like, ugh. This is what we risked our entire political lives for, is this absurdity. And it's not going to get better. This is not going to improve. No. That's the other part of this. Like, no matter what, Marjorie Taylor Greene initially, and again, this is another situation where we find ourselves, we got to take a break. We find ourselves in a situation where Marjorie Taylor Greene is waking up to the fact that Donald Trump's a liar, and that she was lied to about a lot of things from his POV this entire time. Is at some point, is she going to realize, like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I was lied to about the Ukrainians being the bad guys too. I bought all this hook, line, and sinker. Maybe it's about, it was a package deal. Maybe this guy is a liar across the board, and maybe their ego's too weak for it. We'll see. We got to come back after a break. We'll be back after this with more of Philip Bittner, host of On the Edge. Check it out on YouTube, and of course, Johnny Million, who's got his show. It's Johnny Million on YouTube and
immediately
Twitch.
After this.
Oh, right on. We're gonna raid his show if he can get his Orioles act together after this. We'll be back in a moment. Yeah,
Joan Esposito live.
The May 9th thing is just
it's going to linger.
Oof.
It's going to linger. It'll have legs in Russia. That's not just going to go away.
Right. And whenever you're paring down your big giant parade of every vehicle in the country because you weren't using them for anything, with the exception of the ones you shipped down to Africa to torment villagers, like you arrived in a UFO with lasers mounted on it. I
was trying to think of an equivalency in the U.S., and there just isn't one. There's nothing that's even close to it. I mean, it's
because we don't do those kind of like arms sales kind of things.
No. And we don't have a national. I mean, the closest thing would be like fireworks on the 4th of July. But
even that is
the same.
It's not like this would be the equivalent of if Russia did fireworks on the 4th of July by launching actual ballistic missiles at sites, like blowing shit up and dropping a nuke in the middle of a desert, filming it, and everybody could watch it on TV just to show how powerful their nukes are. There is a huge difference between that and fireworks as sort of a reminder, like, hey, we went through war to get here, but now we're at peace and we can use this as a
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Thank you, Lady B, who we love. I gotta say, like this like pathetic pared down, parade, the PPP loan that he had to get, that Putin had to put on. Putin's pathetic pared down parade, 4 Ps, no waiting, unless you're in a hotel room with some Russian prostitutes, according to Christopher Steele. That it's interesting that that's the same number. Never mind. Anyways, point being is that Putin looks increasingly weak and pathetic in this circumstance, not just because the parade went poorly, but because they're losing the war by all merits. Again, I was talking about before the break, this whole, like, maybe the MTGs of the world are going to start waking up to the fact that if they were lied to about everything else, maybe Trump and his pals were lying to them about, this being Ukraine's fault, or that Ukraine was a Nazi state, or any of that stuff that they believed early on because it was coming from the Trump camp, because it was the Russian line. He was just parroting what Russia said, both in, at rallies where he softened it a little bit, but also outwardly, like to friends and everybody in his cabinet. You wouldn't get into the cabinet unless you believed this, or at least said you believed this about about Russia and Ukraine. So it was obviously coming from them from Russia via the Trump administration. Maybe they'll wake up to that. Do you think there's something similar going on in Russia at this point? As this
I do think the Russians are starting to realize that they're not doing well in the war. The fact that they're getting hit, the fact that their oil and gas industry is constantly being hit. That's impossible to deny. I mean, the biggest supply and storage units in Russia have been hit repeatedly. They're driving people out of Crimea because it's too dangerous because the Ukrainians are attacking there. This parade and the fear of a Ukrainian strike during the parade, that has that's something they can't ignore. This is not obviously not going the way that they wanted to. Of course, the problem though is that they always until the last straw is used to break the camel's back, they will always go to if the Tsar only knew that it isn't Putin's fault, that
that's what
it's
Tucker
everybody
Carlson
who's
is doing
around
with Trump.
Yeah,
That's literally
it's exactly the same.
Yeah, with this whole he doesn't know the truth. People around him, Lindsey Graham, whoever, they're telling him a lie, and if he only knew how things really were, he wouldn't do this. He's too good for this. That it's the same. I mean, it's no surprise that Trump as favorable to, and loving and emotionally supportive as he is of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, is that he operates on the same scale as well, and has the same markers for success, which are garbage. Like they're absurd. Like they're not based in reality at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Putin has cultivated a cult of personality. He's done that since he rose to power in 1999, 2000. He took over all the media. He made this mythological figure of himself, and it's not surviving. It's not living up to what it used to be. So he's in real trouble. I mean, I really, really do think that Putin is in serious trouble. We'll see what happens. But
here's an indicator. This is the first time that North Korean soldiers marched in the May 9th parade. North Korea, insofar as I know, played no part in Russia's, the USSR's war against the Nazis or their part in World War II at all. They're just seat fillers, effectively, in the Ukraine war. And now they're getting, they're being allowed to march as a thank you to Kim Jong-un, or a recognition that they wouldn't have the people that they need. But think about that for a second. If America, I almost went to having NATO soldiers, but they helped us with Iraq and Afghanistan. And of course it was a coalition that's worth a damn. But imagine if we were we had the XI group, contractors marching, in our parade, because the Iraq contractors, the guys who were paid to be there as opposed to our soldiers, marching in a Veterans Day parade. There would be a wig out, and rightly so. But these guys,
they do tie the two wars together, or at least Putin's done his best to tie the two wars together. I mean, you talk about the Moscow narrative that got sold to MTG, and a lot of the people who swallowed their propaganda whole meal, is the war the Second World War and the Nazi presence in Ukraine never really went away. It was always kind of propped up by evil Westerners who wanted to turn Ukrainians against Russia, and so they kind of secretly kept the Nazis alive and that movement happening in Ukraine. And so this is just a continuation of the war against Nazism. So you can join up and go to the fight in Ukraine, and you will be doing the same thing that your your grandfather, your great grandfather did in the
Right.
Second World War. So, he's constantly trying to make that link. So that might be his explanation as to why there were North Korean soldiers going. But I think you're probably more right than
Yeah.
that explanation. And then that is, I think they just needed people.
They
They
need
needed
bodies.
people. I mean, the absence of those machines, it changed the entire atmosphere. It changed the entire pacing. The music
Right.
was different. The order of conduct was. I mean, these
Right.
things are done very strictly, very traditionally. You do first the head of the army and the minister of defense meet on Red Square. They come from different directions. They meet, then they come and they get out, and then they march up and they salute and regard the head of whatever, the Politburo back when it was the Soviet Union, or Putin now.
Yeah.
And it felt so much more empty, and then
Yeah.
they cut to like video presentations on
Yeah.
huge screens of like drone operators on the front line, and it was like what was it, Woodstock 99 or whatever, compared
Right.
to the real Woodstock. It's like,
Woodstock, right.
nice try, but
Nice try, right. Yeah.
so and this will, and again, this will have repercussions, because every Russian watches this thing every year as his patriotic duty, and he's going to look at it this year and go, I don't know what that thing was, but that was no Victory Day parade. And why is that? And then questions, and then
well, and that's been the reaction across the entire spectrum of media that I have seen, and including the Russian mill bloggers, which again, the parallels with what Trump is going through with his Iran debacle and his ceasefire that isn't a ceasefire, and a trifle that could lead to us nuking them, and all that. Like, the language coming out of Trump right now isn't that different from crap we heard from Solovyev and all that crowd last year when they were threatening to nuke Berlin and nuke London and nuke Paris and whatever. They all seem, and in the same way, by the way, that Xi Jinping faces when he talks about taking Taiwan, because there's a bunch of, they're better at enforcing what can be said online in China, because they have the the great firewall of China, and they really do have, like, they have AI just basically brooming people offline, and they'll come to your door and arrest you if they don't like what you're saying, way quicker than Russia does it, right? And are way, they've got more blocks against pirate signals than Russia does, for example. And just like Iran rules against having a Starlink or your own satellite way of getting internet outside of that. You'll end up in a re-education camp and beaten with reeds and strapped to a chair and water tortured for real. But even then, when Xi Jinping talks about we're going to take Taiwan, everybody just rolls their eyes, by and large, in China. Even the people that are supportive of it, they don't dare write something, but they're like, we'd lose. They've already mined the waters of the Strait. We'd lose 1 million boats in a day for what? And again, bragging rights, because we'll destroy the industry there that we supposedly want. They're never going to, they've got orders to destroy all the chip making machines. What are we going to do? Take the oolong tea from the Formosa Hills? Yay. It's absurd at this point. All three of them are in the same boat. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I breezed past the break. I apologize. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I just finished a nice coffee. I don't think Phil has gotten to hear what happens when I mute my microphone.
Oh, I think he has. And I think we're afraid that, here he goes again. And I at least wait until you get to the bathroom before Johnny, turn your mic off, buddy. Johnny, mic off. Wait a minute. Did he say iced coffee? Oh no. It can't. You got to eat something with it. You got to have some bran. Johnny, mic off. Johnny, please. All right. He's at least. Can you set it on like voice isolate? Maybe it'll. Okay. Look, I don't think you're well at this point. Honestly.
Yeah, go see a doctor.
Yeah.
Go get a check.
Yeah, I don't know that he's going to recover from that. He's probably going to have to take a nap. You okay, buddy?
This is WCPT.
And there was another adventure.
Yeah, right.
I do appreciate your concern. Everybody tell him go see a doctor.
Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
I'd like to say a personal thank you to Tom Hartman, not just for doing that little drop for us, great man that he is. The man who's written so many books longhand that he actually had to go see a doctor about the carpal tunnel he was getting from writing longhand, where the doctors put his arm in a sling and said, "Don't write for weeks or you're gonna lose the use of your arm." And he still went at it like a 15-year-old with a new toy. He just decided, like any man who could throw his own shoulder out writing longhand is a passionate writer, ladies and gentlemen. And Tom Hartman always with a lot of great stuff to say. Obviously, when he has Richard Wolff on, waste of time and psychotic. But other than that, all right. So and he's had our dear friend Philip Bittner on as well, which I greatly appreciate. And that's because, we've been trying to put, and remind everybody of the human face of this war. And as we go on, the human face of the other wars we find ourselves in, which do you remember when, oh God, are we ever so young, where Trump declared everlasting peace in the Middle East? Just like,
I kind of remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It was so long ago that I was like, did that actually happen or did I dream it? But he, besides the fact that he showed his ridiculous, Trump Plaza Gaza nonsense, he just had his new gold statue put outside of his golf course, which again, by the way, is obviously slimmer than he is in real life, but it is pretty authentic in that there's nothing wrong with its right ear, which I think is an important thing to point out. But this is I've been, in terms of him running on being the peace president at one point, I've been pointing out to MAGA tree as best I can that if that was the goal and this was something that other presidents left unfinished, then why not run on that? Why run on no new wars, no regime change wars, none of this? If you were saying, well, people haven't done this for 47 years and I've got to be the guy to do it. And again, he was president before, so it's not just happening out of nowhere. Like, it's not his first time president. Oh wow, I had no idea. Yeah, he had a chance. Like he could have come to this agreement. He ran again after being president. Apparently, he didn't think there was any reason to do this last time, even though he tore up the deal. There's a similar thing with like Putin, which is they're facing this demographic collapse in Russia. This is a sort of inevitability. They're as they weaken, their biggest fear is not Europe by any stretch of the imagination. If they played nice and were less of a kleptocracy, they would have been in Europe a long time ago. Like, everybody was clamoring to do it in the 90s, which again is why I think it was a rope-a-dope. But China's their biggest enemy, ultimately, because that's who's going to take back the western, the eastern part of their country.
Well, yeah, and I mean, when they let Russia into what at the time was the G7, making it the G8, I remember covering that story, And I spoke to a lot of European diplomats, not just European, American diplomats as well. And the way they explained it to me was that what happened was the Russians showed up at the G7 and said, right, so this is the organization where we cut up the world, where we're basically going to find a way to profit off of, this this powerful small group of countries. That's what we're here to do, right? Is to basically, plunder everything and divvy everything up. Basically just by, putting wads of cash and gold bullion in the back of a truck and off they go. And the rest of the G7 was like, no, that's not how we do it.
Right.
People who are anti, G7 and capitalists and all the rest of it, you can make your arguments as much as you want. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is that Russia showed up thinking that the G7 was simply a front for robbing the world, for divvying up the world and stealing everything.
Sure.
And
like
the
WEF.
G7, the G7's response was, the G7's response was, well, what we really do is we sit down and we make trade deals and treaties and we hash things out and we put ink on paper and we, sign things and the Russians just wanted to go in there like it was just a smash and grab. And it got to a point where they made a lot of other public reasons for why this happened. But again, talking to people who were actually inside the process, the real issue that the G7 had with Russia being part of the then G8 was they don't want to play by any rules. They just want to grab stuff, and no negotiation, just grab stuff. And so, that's why they got kicked out of the G8, and they're still very resentful of that. And, all this, Putin and the kleptocracy and the oligarchy that exists in Russia, you're right. I mean, if they had played by the rules, if they had actually tried to make some revision within their own system as well, because you can't adapt that the kleptocratic system that they had in the kind of late stage Soviet Union.
Right.
You had to do some domestic, renovations and changes, and they just weren't willing to do it. So the rest of the country said, when come back to us when you get your act together, and they never have, and they still don't. And now, following this war, I don't see them getting a place at the table on the international stage for a really long time, in any significant manner, because they've just shown themselves to be who they are, which is
it's the same circumstance
lawless.
we find ourselves. Yeah, it's the same circumstance we find ourselves in with Iran and Trump. Again, the one benefit Russia has is that Ukraine is an honest broker. If there was a real peace to be had that could be tolerated, they would be willing to participate in it. In the case of Trump and Iran, I think both of them are behaving like Russia, and the leadership of either don't have any impetus to give any, because it will weaken their political or militaristic position inside their own country. Trump will, if he does all this and then fails to secure a permanent end to nuclear capabilities within Iran, which again, I don't even know how you say you've succeeded for years, right? Unless you move in with IAEA and troops protecting them from any insurgent IRGC groups that might have broken away, or terrorist groups. Like, who's going to watch the watchers while they're over there? Us, more than likely. I just don't see how you can prove that to be the case. So both of them find themselves in this situation where even if they called it off tomorrow, sign some piece of paper, that doesn't mean either side is going to honor it. I wouldn't trust Trump to honor his side of it any more than I would trust Putin to honor a ceasefire like he didn't last week.
If he couldn't convince a bunch of 8-year-olds, then how's he going to convince?
Right. Yes, precisely.
It's so
And so,
embarrassing. So embarrassing. Trump sitting there explaining it to a bunch of school children. Man, they were going to get a nuclear weapon. So these
right.
kids are like, are we going to
What are you?
get ice cream or
We
something?
yeah. Do we get ice cream before we die at least? Right.
Yeah. Do we have to listen to this idiot talk about what's in Iran?
Yeah, right. Why? And again, for the America First crowd, why in the world would those children in that situation have to hear this crap from their president? You know what I
It's
mean?
just
Like,
surreal.
and the only thing dumber, I think, this week is, if I could play this, is the God, what RFK Jr. said to Trump about peace in the Middle East. Let's see if this plays on here. I don't know why am I not hearing it?
Yeah, not yet.
Literally, the audio on this is busted. I'll play it after the break. But it's stunning that Trump somehow, they're so desperate for somebody to say that they've got peace in the Middle East and he's created peace in the Middle East. It's something he blew off like around November of last year. I think it's the last time he started doing. We've got everlasting peace in the Middle East. And yet they're still trying to tell him this, like you're trying to have grandpa sit still in the chair while he receives an injection. They're treating him like that. I don't know if anybody watches the For All Mankind show or whatever, but there's the lead astronaut character is really old at one point, in the future. He's like the new season's like 9 years after the last big thing. And he's in the hospital and he's on he's on a line and all this stuff because science, even though we're at Mars, we haven't advanced medical science that far. Anyways, he starts having a flashback and getting up and trying to pull out his tubes, because he's having a flashback of the Korean War when he was in it. And that's how people are talking, and they're going, no, you're fine. You're in a hospital. You're totally fine. Relax. Everything's great. You're doing really well. It seems like that's how they're all talking to Trump right now. And I wonder, and we'll never know until afterwards and the books are written, if that's how they're talking to Putin right now. Like that this is all just...
he's increasingly isolating himself. Right. That's another big story that's been coming along. It's that he is increasingly not making public appearances. He's apparently kind of locked himself in the Kremlin. So does he? And also all these test runs on how to control social media and peer-to-peer communications to platforms like Telegram or what have you, or Signal.
Right.
It's clear that I think there is a certain strata of Russia's elite that are starting to think, we have to start making contingency plans, and we have to start, thinking about what's going to happen here, because this is not going well. And they know, and they're supposed to be in a massive summer offensive right now, and they're inching forward, but nothing like what they need to be doing. So, he's in trouble. Putin is in real trouble, and I don't know if there are people who are surrounding him, and as he isolates himself, saying, "Oh yeah, no, the people still love you. Don't worry about it."
Right. As we increasingly look into, where if at all, how this ends, none of it is going to happen. The Iran war is not going to end because of something Trump does. The Ukraine war is not going to be finished because of something that I guess that Putin does. It's more like they're going to keel over, or somebody else is going to grab the stick before the plane hits the ground. Like that's because neither of them have any impetus to do this. They're so dug in, and so much is on the line for their legacy and their, in Trump's case, revenge against society that he seems to be carrying out for being born, ugly and useless. that he's just been always beating up on women in society for him being slighted by having to live life as himself. He's shaking his fist at God for his own reflection. That he's incapable of these kind of changes. He's like the general in Edge of Tomorrow. You are not intellectually capable of understanding this circumstance and doing the right thing, and you never will be. You just have to. The only way you're going to do the right thing in this situation is you recognize how ignorant you are permanently, because you're stuck in a time loop, and I'm not. You are always going to live this moment over and over again and be as dumb as you are today. And until you realize that and just give up and recognize that, we're all doomed to keep playing out this death over and over and over again. And that's where Trump is. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. More with Philip Ittner, host of On the Edge on YouTube. Check it out. Subscribe. And Johnny Million, who will be live streaming after the show today at Johnny Million. Yeah. Okay, there's the audio.
You know that you can listen to Chicago's.
Yay.
Oh, God, that man's voice.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
You're doing God's work here. You've made peace in the Middle East, which is beyond anybody's imagination.
How did he manage to make peace in the Middle East?
Yeah. Which we don't have by any measure.
You're doing God's work here.
You're doing God's work here.
Who told him to say that?
Well, and also, Susie Wiles. I guarantee it. Like,
The rest of the family doesn't talk like that.
Nope.
The rest of the Kennedys have, and I'm whatever, not a huge fan of the Kennedys, but the Kennedy family was very cautious, especially during Camelot, about talking about religion because, of course, they were Catholic.
Yeah,
the first Catholic president. So they were like, we are not talking about religion, because there are enough people freaked out about the fact that somebody who pays gives such deference to a pope, a foreign power, so we're not going to talk about that. But Junior seems to, he's chucked that out the window. He's more than willing to get all religious.
Well, I also think the irony is, I don't think he believes it for a second.
Matter.
I am happy, you are happy. Let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky. Let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Because isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling. Let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning. I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning. I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! Guys, I gotta tell you, this is Operation Butt Kiss is in full force in the White House. Even if the rest of the operations and whether it's Operation Epstein Furry or Operation Free Dumb and Dumber or whatever they're calling their 16-hour programs that go away. The one consistent in an ever-changing universe right now is that the only way that Susie Wiles thinks you can keep Donald Trump awake is to have a bunch of people kiss his butt on camera and say the most absurd things to his face. For example, RFK Jr. here telling Donald Trump he's doing God's work and
that you didn't believe that you were going to get to heaven. You're doing God's work here. You've made peace in the Middle East, which is beyond anybody's imagination.
Yes, I would agree that it is beyond anyone's imagination that Donald Trump has created peace in the Middle East. Like, no one can imagine that happening right now. And the outcome that there will be peace in the Middle East is nearly impossible for even maggots to make right now. And just try projecting forward to the blowback and backlash from the stuff that he's done, even if a Democrat takes over or somebody else takes over or a Republican even 10 years from now that's reasonable in any way strikes a deal, and there's still going to be people in the Middle East carrying a grudge like, Osama bin Laden did after Afghanistan, that they're going to want to take out on the American people. And Donald Trump will be safe in his gated communities and his buildings and stuff if he's still around.
Or
His children,
or he doesn't care. He will have shuffled off this mortal coil long before
the
the
blowback
real
happens.
ramifications.
Yeah. And right now, apparently, military tankers are surging to the Middle East. Like the air resupply tankers are showing up and filling up with fuel for what very well may be the next phase and bombing in this situation. And I think it was a couple of days ago, Mark Levin posting this picture. He's one of the other Trump whisperers, that it's not Trump that wants to do this and is doing this and making these decisions. And Mark Levin, has waved a gold watch or a candle in front of his face, poor Trump's stuck in Get Out, and he can't make his own decisions because he's so dough-headed. Again, maybe yet another. How about the 25th Amendment just to save MAGA at this point?
Right.
But right now we've got, Flight Radar is showing a surge in these, in these tankers gathering fuel down in the Middle East so that they can resupply planes in the air, including B-52s. Because that's what they're there for. So they can do their mission and then refuel them in the air and they can fly right back. Because we need to obliterate what we already obliterated before we obliterate it again. For Obliteration 3, The Reckoning. This is starting to look...
You can't do this. You can't do this without boots on the ground. You
Right.
can't win this kind of war from the air. It's just, and...
Yeah,
that's never going to happen. If the 82nd Airborne or the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force is put on troop transports and sent across the Atlantic, I mean, the second they get the call up to go and get ready to deploy, I think America will go. There will be mass numbers on the streets. Mass numbers on the street, and one other quick point about that. The whole idea, one of the really things that gives me hope for the future is that Gen Z, the guys who would fight this war, are going, no. We have seen what happened to the boomers in Vietnam. We saw what happened to Gen X and the millennials in Iraq and Afghanistan. We're not repeating this. We're just not going to do it. Right. So thank God for them. I mean, kudos to Gen Z.
Well, and it permeates across the entire political spectrum, because for a period of time, as somebody who marched against the Iraq War, because with a no blood for oil sign at one point, among many others, I personally remember when, my side of the aisle was very much against this, and there were a few Republicans that kind of crossed over, but certainly, mostly like the Ron Paul adjacent Russian grassroots, the first stirrings of them messing with us through Ron Paul, creating this like faux opposition from him. But now there seems to be a broad across the spectrum hatred of this. And the only group that I have seen that seems to support what Trump is doing in Iran for its long-term value are end timers, both Christian, Islamic, and like Jewish end timers, who think finally someone has the guts to call Jesus's bluff. To put, we're going to put all the things in line that the Bible says are going to happen and see if this jerk shows up finally. That's the way they're approaching it.
Yeah.
They're the only ones for it at this point. And as a sign, we've watched Solovyev and Simonyan get increasingly upset that while they're the only, voice allowed by the Kremlin to talk about this stuff, they're even having a real tough time selling this nonsense to the people. Can you imagine if the parade was that bad? Imagine what the viewers are like on Simonyan and Solovyev's show in Russia.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Same thing happening over here. If you want to see an indication of the parallels that are happening between, Trump and Truth Social and the, 60 Minutes and Solovyev and Simonyan, which are the shows over in Russia, and Putin. Here's your most obvious one. This is Trump's Truth Social. This is a variety story, but this is Daily Beast short version of it. Trump's Truth Social posts eye-watering loss. The Truth Social reported a staggering $405 million net loss for the first quarter of 2026, with only $871,000 in revenue. Now, I got to tell you,
like a lot.
I don't even know how your little media company with basically no employees throws away that kind of money, unless you're just bilking your investors. That's the only answer, is that this is a manufactured loss. This is the producers. You can make more money with a loser social media platform than you can with a winner. Bialystok and Bloom, good day. That's what this is. That's the only thing that makes sense. $871,000
between this and the Onion taking over Infowars.
Right.
This is
art of the
good
deal,
media
baby.
News.
Art of the deal. Despite the ugly results, the company tried to project confidence, touting its, quote, strong balance sheet, while promising more growth for Truth Social streaming platform Truth Plus, which, by the way, just re-airs RAV stuff. It's just, they're just rehousing video, which is expensive, that is other, like, it makes no sense. Like, just let people embed their YouTube shows in your feed and it would save you money. It's unbelievable. And then a fintech venture, Truth.fi, which again, like, what are you doing? Like, this is the state of, and Devin Nunes just stepped down, and their quarterly losses were just so bad that even Devin Nunes, who has been terrible,
I remember that guy.
Yeah, remember him? The Trump Media and Technology Group stock has gone down. While Trump is touting how the stock market has gone up, we were hitting records all the time. During that same time, Truth's stock has gone down 35%. 35%.
Well, if I was Nunez from day one, I would have started lining my pockets and preparing my exit strategy.
Oh yeah,
so.
Sell whatever stock you have and just take the salary, because it's going nowhere but down. And that's where we are with Trump as well, and that kind of stuff. I want to thank both my guests this morning. Let's see, Philip Ittner on the Edge tomorrow.
Got a good. I say good. We've got a very powerful one tomorrow. Our good friend Zarina Zabriskie returns to the show to talk about what's happening in occupied Kherson region and what the Russians are doing to the local inhabitants there. And it's a very difficult, tragic story.
Please check it out on the Edge. We're at the end of the show. Thank you so much, Phil. Really greatly appreciate it. We're going to throw to Johnny Million on the live feed as well. Thank you, guys.
I'll be up in a
minute.
minute.
Share the show. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Be safe, Phil.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye. There you go.
From the heart of Chicago,
Johnny's jumping right out. So thanks so much, Phil.
All right.
Yeah, I'll let you go.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Yeah,
right.
Sounds good. All right, there they go. And thank you, Chicago. You're awesome. Appreciate you as well. And we'll hang around till Johnny Million is up and running. We'll stand by to raid him as soon as he's there. And look at this chat room, which is blazing. So I know we had a couple of maggots in the feed. Did they? And I'm sorry I didn't see their sorry answers, but did any of them have an answer for why the peace in the Middle East guy who ran on peace and no regime change wars and no new wars and certainly no wars in the Middle East, why he is now saying that he's doing something that nobody had the guts to do for 47 years? If he knew that before and he's been saying that all along, why run on peace? Why not just run on and P.S. I'm going to handle this Iran crap for once and for all. Right? Why not run on that? That's what you're going to do. And if maggots we're going to be for it, and they consider it America first, which I don't know how they do, but let's just say, how did they explain that amongst themselves? He had to do it. Well, apparently that's what he says, but did he? And also he had to do it, and he said we've needed to do it for 47 years. Well, why not run on it? Why not beat your chest about it? Why not make that one of your platform points? And when I get in there, we're going to show Iran who's boss. Unless you were just lying. Because the Iran stuff was in the PNAC document, right? Standard Republican neocon crap. It's been around since the 90s, and Donald Trump is following it to a T, just like he's doing Project 2025. It's not an original thought in his head. And ultimately, the tariffs are about shifting the tax burden to the consumer, creating a value-added tax without trying to pass it through the Congress. That's what he's doing. He's trying to take the tax burden off the rich and put the tax burden onto the consumer of mass goods. That's what he's doing. That's what Besson has instructed him to do. That's obviously what he would rather certainly do, because I got news for you. In his tax system, you can't write off like fucking your regular life, like your commuter car and that kind of stuff. But you can write off a yacht because you're using it to take business people out to dinner on it. You can write off an airplane that's millions of dollars from day one in his tax break. The only way you can do that with a commuter vehicle is if it weighs over 60,000 pounds. So if you want to get a regular car, even like a regular Tesla, it's too small to get the tax break. And he's going to give you a break on the interest? That's not a kickback to you. We're paying the interest to the banks. The U.S. taxpayer, whether they bought that car or not, is paying the interest to the bank. It's a passive bank bailout. What are you doing? How do you not see this? Also, we all know the dude could not quote the Bible without it sounding like he's having someone sear his feet with irons. He hisses the entire time he does it. Watch, it's like a snake reading it. It almost makes me believe in lizard people. But he also couldn't quote Jesus wept without a teleprompter and an earpiece. Where in the world do you think? Why would you believe anybody who can at least quote John 3:16 would be a good Christian leader of the country? Beyond whether or not people, on my side of the aisle or even on the other side of the aisle, Ron Paul's an atheist. Just get used to it. So is Rand Paul. So is that whole family. Most of the other ones are Darwinist passive eugenics or pro-eugenics racists because they're, like Peter Thiel crowd. They're not Christians. Thiel talks about the Antichrist as a placeholder for how you broom idiots from the earth, not because he has any deep, abiding religious belief. Get over yourself. But certainly not Trump. Come on. Would a good Christian man at least learn how to do it? Even if he didn't know before. He couldn't memorize John 3:16. I mean, even the fakest of fake preachers has that one down. So, do you ever wonder why when you get the car loan, the government doesn't just pay you, tell the bank, hey, auto loans don't have interest. We're not going to do that right now. Since we loan money to the banks into existence, we're going to shave that off the interest you guys pay or add it to it if you do. You're just going to give, interest-free loans because it's government money anyways. We're going to back it. We're going to back these loans and we're going to pay people the interest that they would have. You ever wonder why that's not the structure? Because it's not about giving you money. It's about paying the banks money so they can sell more loans. And they can give out more loans to people that they think aren't qualified. Because the loan amount is too high because they don't trust who they're loaning to. How is this any different than people weren't qualified, got loans for houses they couldn't afford? How's it any different? Because it's him? Because it's Trump? Come on. I don't. I mean, it's increasingly confusing listening to them try to explain this. But I got to tell you, like, it's one thing for them, like, how do I shape this? How do I talk myself into this? But now it's obvious they know it's bullshit, but they're just trying to, like, shoehorn this into the conversation, and they don't even believe it. Like, maggots, come on. You don't actually believe Donald Trump is a godly man. You don't actually believe he's the healthiest man that ever lived. And you certainly don't believe he's actually America first. Are you absolutely, like, I'm giving you more credit than you give yourself in public. Right? I can't believe you're this dumb. So either you're doing it just out of spite or your ego is that weak, and that's salvageable. Fix yourself. Don't. Okay, Johnny's restarting. He's getting, because he's simulcast, right? That's maybe on days you're streaming, we don't do the simulcast. Maybe that's the thing, Johnny. Don't worry about it. We'll get you up. Oh, restream, you naughty thing. MAGA's under Satan's spell. I mean, that would explain it. Pagan former Catholic, they use religion as a crutch or a prop. Yeah, I mean, everybody's got their ideology crutch anyways. I would argue that most of the way people talk about communism, socialism, or Marxism is a religious crutch. There's infidels and non-believers and believers, and there's a perfect utopia waiting for us if only. It's got all the same language. There's no functional structure in any of Marx's works that actually would create, like, this is the instruction. Like, how to start a co-op, how to build that co-op into none of that is in there. It's all just, it's religious, it's us against the infidels. It's the same languaging. That's why it catches on in the same way. It's why the iconography is the same. You have to have a material way of implementing it. And even religions eventually know that. Okay, you're in charge. You're the guy who reads the book, and you light the candles. And these people walk down. They sing the song, right? Like even that requires structure after a while. Andrea, there's a thing where you can co-stream to people's like to your guests' channels to reach out to where they are or whatever, and it helps sometimes or whatever. And it's just a thing. So it's a thing that Restream offers. I'm going to try and do with some of our, like with Phil, it might help but I think most of our audience is his audience. But when it comes to people that are guesting on the show, like Doc Adam and others, it'd be nice to have his episode stream on his channel. Like that, yeah, it's like they could host the show on their thing, but it's through a link that Restream does. It's pretty cool, but we don't do it. We haven't tried it very often because it's very confusing. No more socialism for the rich. There isn't socialism for the rich. There are corporate bailouts. That's not socialism. It isn't. It's just a bailout. It's just a tax break in absentia. We're going to give you a tax break before you've even paid taxes on it. We're going to give you a break. We're going to give you some money so you don't go away. So we hope you pay taxes in the future. That's what that is. That's not even a cartoon version of socialism. I mean, it works as a pejorative because when maggots hear that, they get mad. When you say it's socialism for the rich, it makes them mad. It's not a good analogy, but it makes them upset. It's like welfare for the rich. That also upsets because they hate welfare so much that they just don't like, ugh. It makes them mad that you dare. but it's not, it's silly. And again, you guys know me. I'm all about truth over jargon. And there are some people who are just so tied to jargon. And we see it on, look at the fight between MAGA and America First right now, while we're waiting for Johnny to come on. Right? While we're looking at this, like, think about that right now. There is a big fight between MAGA and America First. Right? How is that different than your, Lutheran, Presbyterian, Baptist, First Baptist, Second Baptist, Christian, Jewish, Islam? We all have the same God, but I look at it from this side. Like, it's a farce. You're fighting over jargon and what you call it. And you know why people mainly do that is so that they don't have to sit down together and go, what does that actually mean to you? Okay, and how do you play that out in this scenario? And how do you play that out in this scenario? And what if this happens? That's what democracy is all about. It's why I'm a Democrat. Because everybody should have a say, even if I don't like where they're coming from, and we should be able to hash that out peacefully. Yes? Johnny, no, is he up? Is he all right? I'm looking at the staff chat. Yes? I see it. We're good. You had to abandon Johnny's stream, end it will. Oh, no. Is he coming back on? Sorry, it's not going to work today. Tell everyone I'll see them next week. Oh, dear. Something else is going on then. All right. Well, I guess I'll get my guitar out and I'll play. All right. Johnny's no Johnny stream then. All right. You guys have a great day, and I will see you guys later. And then I'm going to, on my way out the door, I'm going to play my one last play at that. Where did I put that guy? Is it in this one? Yeah.
Shut up, Meg.
That's what. Okay.
He's going to take the fucking thing away from you. He's going to kill you with it, and then he's going to have sex with your face.
All right. That's audio straight from the peace plan, the conversations, everlasting peace in the Middle East that's happening right now. All right. I'll let you guys go. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Let's see. Yeah. Send you out with blue marble. Hit the like, share the show. This is, by the way, available on my iTunes. If you want to buy it or listen to it, or it's on Spotify too. Blue Marble by 01.
Helmet hair shaking on the tarmac. Moon dust still in the folds of my hands. You look up, but your sky is crowded. Tiny screens drowning out the span. Every face glowing in the blue light. Every street buzzing sharp and loud. I float in the gravity of old fights. You laugh like it's just another cloud. From up there, you're a blue marble, bruised paper thin halo, hanging abused. I held my breath as you spun in the dark. How can you burn what you are? How can you burn what you are? I saw your eyes through a scratched window.